Welcome to Learning Kitchen Live, episode 18. My name is Jessica Burch. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings, and as you can see, this is home edition. Today I'm going to be talking about breakfast, why breakfast is considered important, how eating or not eating breakfast can affect your overall health, and go over some tips and tricks of how to fold breakfast into your regular routine, all while cooking 2 recipes for you today. So the first recipe is going to be a muffin tin veggie frittata, and it's super easy to make, really great because you can cook it ahead of time, and then you'll have breakfast for a family of 4 for 3 days once you accompany one of these little frittatas with something like some whole grain toast, or whole wheat toast, or a side of fruit. And then the second recipe features one of our favorite seasonal ingredients, pumpkin. So we're gonna make pumpkin spiced baked oatmeal. And these little flavor bombs are, again, like one of the easiest things you can possibly have to make. You can make them ahead of time, and they are so much more nutrient dense, full of protein, fiber, all sorts of really good things for you, way better than grabbing one of those muffins or bagels at a bakery or Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you're going. So with that being said, let's get started. If you're just joining now, I'm Jessica Burch, one of the dietitians at Community Servings. This is Learning Kitchen Live, episode 18, and we're doing breakfast. So let's get started. I am going to get my saute pan heating up, and we're going to start by cooking some vegetables. Yes, vegetables and breakfast. So if you tuned into my episode a few weeks ago, I talked about why it's important to try to have 5 servings of vegetables each week. First, I'm just going to put about 2 teaspoons of olive oil in the bottom of my pan, just enough to keep the vegetables from sticking. So why are vegetables so important? They give us vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, all the things that keep our immune system strong. They're also full of fiber, which sweeps our body clean, can help to lower blood cholesterol levels, it can help to keep your blood pressure down, it helps to keep blood sugars stable. Vegetables are really nature's medicine, so we should take advantage of them and try to incorporate as many servings into our diet each day as we can, that goal being 5. So if you can fold some vegetables into your breakfast, you're already setting yourself up for success for the rest of the day, right? So I've got my pan. I'm going to add in some of my favorite vegetables. So I've got some bell pepper and some onion, and I'm going to start with those. I'll talk a little louder, so hopefully you can hear me over the sizzling pan. Now, the recipes will be posted underneath the video in the comment section at the end of the class. And you'll see that I picked some of my favorite vegetables to put into this recipe. Just gonna let those sit. You're not gonna like the recipe unless you include vegetables that you like and vegetables that are accessible. If you don't have peppers and onions and spinach and zucchini on hand, well then you don't have to use them. That doesn't mean that you can't make this recipe. This recipe is great with onions and carrots, which are some of the most widely available vegetables, whether you're shopping at a grocery store or at a food pantry. So if what you've got is onions and carrots, chop up those onions, use a cheese grater, grate down those carrots, and do the same sauteing method just for a few minutes to break down the vegetables a little bit. Fold them into your eggs, and you're going to have an amazing meal. Another thing that's a really good option for this dish is a jar of salsa. So what I would say is if you're going to use a jar of salsa, dump it into a pan like this. You don't necessarily need to add the oil, and let some of the liquid from the tomatoes evaporate off. You can just do it on medium heat for a few minutes until you see kind of that edge of water go away, and then what you can do is just fold that into your eggs, and you're going to have a southwestern muffin tin frittata with very little effort. You're gonna get those tomatoes, bell peppers, onions, garlic, maybe tomatillos folded into that dish, and it's gonna be delicious, and all for the cost of a jar of salsa, which shouldn't be too bad. And then you don't have to do any of the cutting, right? So, I want everybody to try this if you can. So figuring out how you can do that with what is available and accessible and what makes the most sense in terms of time is important. All right. So we talked about why vegetables are important, but really this class is about breakfast. So we should probably talk about why breakfast is important. So in a typical, maybe perfect situation, you would have your dinner or your supper in the evening, sometime between maybe 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock at night, and then maybe have a small snack before you go to bed, and then there would be this long period of time, hopefully long period of time, where you're sleeping. I know that's kind of tough for a lot of people right now, but this period of time where you're sleeping and probably not eating, even if you're tossing and turning and not getting your 8 hours. So that long period of time without eating is what we call a fast, right? And we want to break that fast in order to get our day started. If you've gone for a long period of time without eating, I'm just going to add in my zucchini. It's just one zucchini chopped up. If you've gone for that long period of time without eating, your body needs fuel. And that's what breakfast is. You want to try to pick something for breakfast that's going to give you at least 3 of the main food groups, those being protein, grain, hopefully a whole grain, fruit or vegetable. And a lot of the time we find that's really hard. And if we're in a hurry, we might skip breakfast altogether and just go for something that's going to give us a jolt and get us started, namely coffee. Maybe coffee with like a caramel swirl or mocha something other, I don't know. All of these sweet options. And then what you end up getting is you get the caffeine, which gets you going because it's a stimulant, and the sugar from whatever other additives are going into your coffee, which get you going. But there's no actual nutrients in any of that. There's no real food. And so very quickly, you're going to go crashing back down and either need another cup of whatever it is you drank earlier, or you're going to be grumpy. But by having a balanced breakfast, by having a meal in the morning that gives you those nutrients your body craves, you're going to jumpstart your body, get you going, get your digestive system going, feed your brain so that you can concentrate on what it is that you need to do during the day, and be able to be more focused. Have fewer of those moments of feeling overwhelmed because you're giving your body the things it needs to get going. All right. So we should all have breakfast, right? I'm going to just add in some chopped up spinach to this now as well. My stovetop seems very hot today. I don't know why. All right. I'm going to just let these veggies cook down. And look at this. Can you see? Yum. That's so many vegetables going into a breakfast dish. Wow, setting yourself up for huge amounts of success. Okay. Now, I'm going to let those cook for a minute, and I'm going to get started on my eggs. So this recipe calls for 12 eggs, which might seem like a lot, but it's 12 servings, so really it's an egg per serving. And if you have a little person at home, you can get them to help with the egg cracking. My 2-year-old absolutely loves to crack eggs. He sees them and he wants to crack them. And getting kids involved in the cooking process makes them more likely to want to try something or eat something that they've been hesitant about before, because they can take ownership of that. So if you can get a kid in to help crack some eggs, they love to crack them, you might get them to be more excited about eating this dish. Or get them to cut up some vegetables and pour them into the pan. These are great ways to get everybody in the family eating better and enjoying the time of having a meal, preparing a meal together. So I just realized this is going to make a lot of noise on this pan, so I need to grab this to crack my eggs. So, as I said, we're gonna do 12 eggs. If you are so first, eggs are a great source of protein. They are an excellent source of vitamins and nutrients like choline, which is great for brain health. However, oops, I dropped a shell. Which I meant to say, if you have a little one helping you and you drop shells or they drop shells, the best way, which I'm not doing right now, to get shells out is to get your finger wet with some water. Geez, I dropped a lot of shells. And stick it in on the shell and pull it right out and you'll be good to go. Okay. So, I was talking eggs and cholesterol. If you have high cholesterol, you're told to avoid eating the yolks because they do have a fair amount of cholesterol in them. So, for this recipe, what you can do is either pull out somewhere between 4 and 6 of the egg yolks simply by doing this. Can you see? So I dumped the white and I'm just pouring the yolk back and forth in between the shells until all that's left is the yolk in the shell. But I'm going to dump it in because I'm going to use it. Or you can use egg whites that come in one of the cartons at the grocery store. And just look at the label. It will tell you what the conversion is for 12 eggs. And add that. All right, 2 more. Oops, and another shell. And that part's gonna be crunchy. There we go. Almost. I'm gonna have to wet my finger for that one, I think. It's stuck. All right. Let me get my finger wet. All right, it's hiding in here underneath this yolk. Gotcha. There we go. Perfect. I'm gonna rinse my hands off one more time. Okay. Now let me just check my veggies, give them a little stir. They're almost there. So I've got my eggs, and now I'm gonna add a half a cup of milk and a half a cup of grated, this is sharp cheddar. Pick your yum, whatever cheese you like. You can leave the cheese out altogether. I'm adding cheese instead of salt. So, as I've said in multiple episodes in the past, we want to try to cut back on the amount of salt that we're eating in our regular diet because there's a lot of salt in the American food system, and too much salt can make your blood pressure go up. We don't want high blood pressure. It's not good for our kidneys. It's not good for our heart. It's not good for our eyes. So, if we can avoid it by not adding extra salt to a dish like this, we're setting ourselves up for better health in the long run. Now, if you make this with just using cheese as the salt, because I should have mentioned cheese has a lot of salt in it, so that's why I'm using that in place of the salt itself. But you make it, and you taste it, and you think, it still needs a little salt, by all means, put a little sprinkle on your little frittata piece. There's nothing wrong with that, but at least you know that you're not adding any extra into the cooking process, and you can individualize your need for salt after. All right, so what I am gonna add is some black pepper, and then this is dried basil. You can, again, find your yum. What herbs and spices would you think, or do you think would taste really good in this dish? And choose those. Okay. Almost. I got one yolk that doesn't want to break up all the way. All right. Oops. So, got my eggs. got my veggies. And now, trading out. So, I said in the recipes that this dish was going to be done in muffin tins, but I only have one muffin tin, and the other recipe, the baked oatmeal, takes a really long time in a baking dish. They can both be done in a baking dish or in muffin tins, whatever is available. But this way I feel like it will just cook a little bit faster and you'll get to see an end product. So I am going to do it this way so you can see what I'm doing. Dump in my vegetables, and the reason I'm not adding them directly into the eggs is I don't want them to start cooking the eggs and coagulate a bunch of eggs right in the middle of my bowl. I also want to spread them out evenly throughout the whole dish. So if you were doing this in muffin tins, you could just scoop a little bit of the vegetable into each little muffin tin. And if you're using muffin tins, you should spray, I should have sprayed this with like nonstick cooking spray. It'll be fine. I'll wrench it out. But your life will be easier if you don't forget that step. I'm not gonna scoop this all out now though, it'll be okay. So, I'm just spreading out my vegetables so that they are even across the bottom. And then every bite is gonna get some vegetable, see? And then, here's my eggs, one more friendly whipping. And then I'm going to pour them in over, yum, 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 my veggies. Ta-da! Couldn't have been easier. I'm going to pop this right in the oven at 375, and this should, in the muffin tins it takes about 15 minutes. This should be done in somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. We're going to cross our fingers and hope that it's on the faster end, or I'll just show you how far we've gotten along. If you're just joining now, this is Learning Kitchen Live, episode 18. My name is Jessica. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings, and today we're talking breakfast. So we've got our first recipe in the oven. I'm going to take a sip of water. You didn't need the narration for that, but I was going to tell you anyway. And we've talked about why vegetables. We did talk about why vegetables are important, but we talked about why breakfast is important. Let's get started on our next recipe, and we'll talk about why breakfast is important for your health specifically, and ways that we can fold breakfast into our regular routine. So, oof, it's a little heavy. So for our second recipe, we are going to make, and this is like seriously the easiest thing that you could ever make. What takes the longest is opening the can. So this is our pumpkin spiced baked oatmeal. Okay, so what you want in terms of pumpkin is canned pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. Pumpkin pie filling has a lot of extra sugar added into it, but this is just canned pumpkin. And it's the whole can. And then to this, I'm gonna add my milk. And whisk the two together. This is another great recipe for doing with kids because they can't make too much. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. They could totally make a huge mess making it, but it's all whisking, and kids love to whisk. And so if you make it with them, they're gonna feel like they're making a special treat. It is a special treat, and then they get to eat it for breakfast. Okay, so I've got my milk. whipped into my pumpkin. Then I'm gonna add some brown sugar. I don't remember the exact amount, so I'm not gonna make it. And whisk that in. I'm going to add my spice blend. So I've got some allspice, some cinnamon, and some nutmeg. And then I've also got some baking powder. Now, if you don't like pumpkin, mashed bananas would be a perfect substitute. You could fold, instead of using, I'm using cranberries today with the, mashed banana. You could do frozen blueberries. You could do some peanut butter. You could also do like a can of peaches and mash them up, squeeze off some of the extra liquid and fold that in. You could also do the same thing with a can of pears with some cranberries. Oh, that would be so yummy. It's so easy. And using the canned fruit makes it so that you don't have to break anything down. You don't have to cook it in any way. So it goes really fast. Also, if you're going to use canned fruits, try to make sure that you pick one that's canned in either fruit juice or water instead of in syrup or heavy syrup, because you don't want all that extra sugar. Okay, so got all of that. What I'm gonna add next is egg. Get that little kid that's sneaking around in the background and wants something to do, and to crack your egg. Put that in. You can already smell all those delicious spices. All right, oats, key. Can't have a baked oatmeal without oats. Mix those in. Splatter a little bit on yourself for good measure. And then I'm gonna put in some vanilla. Where'd my top go? I'm putting in some pecans, seasonal, delicious. They have extra protein, heart healthy fats, fiber. Why not, right? You can toast them if you've got more time to add a little bit of a more rich, nutty flavor. And then some dried cranberries. You could substitute in chopped almonds. You could substitute in pumpkin seeds. All right. So, few last turns with the whisk. This seems like maybe the hardest part. All right, there we go. Whisk is clear. And now all I need is a spoon. So with these, and let's see, I'm gonna move this up here so you can see a little bit better. So for these, you want to fill them up all the way. You don't want to just kind of scamp and only fill up halfway, because then, well, you've got a lot of extra batter left over for one, and for another, you're missing out on all the good stuff that you just put in the bowl. So I'm gonna pack these down and fill them up to the top. And while I'm doing this, oh, I should point out that you can see me doing 6 right here. I did 6 already. Woohoo! So that if these don't cook in time, I can show you the finished product. But this would be for 12 little muffins, little baked oatmeal muffins. All right. So we talked about why breakfast is important, but let's talk about specifically why it's important for health. So if you don't eat breakfast and you skip, we talked about having those energy crashes. What that essentially is that your blood sugar is crashing because your body needs carbohydrate or sugar to keep going throughout the day. And if you don't get breakfast, then you're not giving your body that jump to start your engine. That is going, if you have diabetes, pre-diabetes, or at risk for either of those things, what you're doing is you're making your blood sugars go like this. We don't want that. We want our blood sugars to be nice and even. Makes us feel better over the long run. It does better things inside our body overall. The other thing is that if you don't eat breakfast, your body goes into a state of stress. Or, I mean, not just breakfast, but if you're skipping meals, your body goes into a state of stress. Think of your body as something that needs to be nurtured. It needs to be taken care of and loved. And so it needs to be fed in regular intervals. If you don't feed it in regular intervals, it's gonna, start to panic. Why am I not getting food? When's the next time I'm gonna get food? And that sends stress hormones into your bloodstream that over a long period of time can have detrimental effects to your health. We don't want that either. The other thing that happens if you don't eat breakfast or if you skip is that by the time you actually do get around to eating something, you're going to be really hungry. And then you're going to eat more than you would regularly, which makes perfect sense. You haven't eaten in a long time. You're starving. So of course you're going to eat a lot. But when you're going to eat a lot, you might eat more than you should at one time. And you might make choices that aren't necessarily as good for you. So you might eat whatever's fastest, whatever's most easily available. And you're going to eat a lot of it in a short period. But if you're making sure that you get breakfast, if you're spacing out your meals, then you're going to be feeding your body in the way that it wants to be fed, giving it regular doses of nutrients throughout the day. All right, got a little bit of pumpkin slime on my fingers, but let me stick this in the oven. Ta-da, super easy. I guess the scooping part was and the whisk were the hardest parts of this dish. Oh, and our eggs are cooking up. So let's take a few moments now and just chat a little bit more about breakfast and how to fold it into your regular routine. And then I can pull out our eggs, we can take a look, and you can go on your way. So if you're just joining now, welcome to the last few minutes. This is Learning Kitchen Live Home Edition, episode 18. My name is Jessica. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings, and today we've been talking about breakfast. We've made a veggie frittata that I advertised as being in muffin tins, but I did it in a baking dish because I didn't have enough muffin tins. And we made baked oatmeal, pumpkin spice baked oatmeal. So these are two dishes that can be made ahead of time. And that's one of the things to consider if you are trying to make sure that you're getting breakfast every day, is seeing what you can do to plan in advance. Personally, I'm terrible with this. I'm really, really not very good at planning menus in advance. I'm more of the at the moment type of person, but I always have foods on hand that I can grab. If you can prepare some things in advance, if you can try one of these recipes or look for some others online that are appealing to you and have things on hand that you can grab and make that morning routine a little bit. If you don't have the time to make stuff ahead of time, having things on hand, like I mentioned before, that you can grab and go if you don't have enough time to sit down and eat a meal, is going to be your next best bet. And so things like that that would be good to have on hand are like Greek yogurts, that you can get the individual ones. I recommend Greek over regular yogurt simply because it's higher in protein and lower in carb. If you can pick a plain Greek yogurt and add your own flavorings to it, put in a little bit of vanilla, put in a handful of granola, put in a handful of chopped up fresh fruit or frozen fruit, or even fruit that's been canned in its own juice or in water. What you're going to do there is you're going to give yourself a healthier, protein-packed breakfast, whereas some of the other yogurts that have the added fruits into them can be a little bit higher in sugar, because essentially what they're putting into that yogurt is jelly or jam, That's not a bad thing, but it just gives you maybe a little bit more sugar than you necessarily need. Other great things to have on hand are cheese, fruit, crackers. For a long time, I had about an hour-and-a-half commute I was doing every morning, depending on the traffic. And so I was rushing out the door a lot. And in order to make sure that I got something into my system to get my day going, I always had a box of whole wheat crackers in my car. I always had a bag of apples in my car, and I had cheese sticks in my refrigerator. And I would grab a cheese stick or two, depending on how hungry I was feeling that morning, have a handful of whole wheat crackers, and an apple or some other type of fruit, or sometimes things like cherry tomatoes, sliced carrots. No, it's not like your traditional breakfast, but it's meeting all of those food groups. And so that's what we want to try to do, is make sure that you're getting all of those food groups and starting your body off with a good balance of foods to start your day, as opposed to just skipping all of those things and just throwing yourself out into the wild world without enough nutrients to push you through the day. Let's see. What are some other things? You could do things like rice cake with peanut butter and some raisins. That doesn't have to be rice cake. If rice cakes are kind of scary, you could do a slice of whole wheat bread. But thinking about how you can get whole grains, something that gives you protein, and some sort of fruit or vegetable into that morning is going to get you started off for a better day. All right? So let's take a peek at my eggs. Oh, and I just meant to mention earlier, and I forgot, I apologize. If you have any questions, please post them in the comment section, and either myself, if I can see it, or one of my colleagues will respond to you. But let's take a look at our eggs. I can smell them. I'm not sure that they're totally done, but we can still take a peek. Oh, they're starting to coagulate at the edges, but they need a little bit more time. I'll give you a peek so you can imagine what it's gonna look like. And as I said, I should have sprayed this and I totally forgot. But we've got our baked what is this? Pumpkin spiced baked oatmeal. These are fantastic. You can get a yummy peek at how good that's gonna be. Oh yeah, I might have one of these for lunch. And our halfway done muffin tin made in a baking dish for veggie frittata. Again, if you did this in muffin tins, it would cook a lot faster. This is probably gonna take another 15 minutes or so. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them. Give the recipes a try, and have a great rest of your week. Take care. Bye.